Well, greetings and welcome back to today's edition of Extraordinary Connection. My name is Pastor Devin, and it has been my privilege and honor to be a part of these daily offerings here at Extraordinary Connection. And as I was preparing for today's devotion, something caught my eye. You see, I have all of my notes for each of these devotions that I made. I have them all saved in one folder. They're all titled by date. And as I opened that folder and as I was looking today, I realized that the first video I ever recorded was from March 25th. Nearly 6 months ago, that first video was recorded. And as I saw that date, in so many ways, it seems like it was so long ago, like so much has happened since then. But in other ways, it doesn't seem that long ago at all. It seems like just yesterday I remember sitting down to record that video. But as I looked at and acknowledged that date, I also realized that likely all my colleagues probably have a similar folder, one that contains their notes from each of their videos, their offerings that they've presented as well. There was just something about seeing that and acknowledging the time and effort that has been put in over these past 6 months that it really made me stop. Because these past 6 months, they've been anything but ordinary. Perhaps we could even call them extraordinary times. It's been a time like nothing else that any of us have ever lived through or experienced. It's been difficult for any number of reasons, different reasons for all of us. But I will be forever grateful for this group of people who came together to make this site possible, to give of themselves, to share their sometimes difficult personal experiences, to take time to encourage anyone who happens to come across our little corner of the internet. I'm so grateful for the difference it's made in my life, for being able to participate and see the daily offerings of my colleagues. I'm also so grateful to everyone who's joined us on this journey. Whether you were there and watched that first video back in March, or you've joined us somewhere between then and now, thank you for joining us. Thank you for all those who have left kind words and comments, those who have sent words of encouragement that you've shared with me and the others during this time. Thank you to those of you who have shared our content with others. I've had a number of people tell me that they came to our site because someone encouraged them to watch a message from one day or another. Someone thought they needed to hear the words of encouragement we were offering. For me, it has truly been a wonderful celebration of our United Methodist connection to hear from people all across our state who have appreciated our efforts. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you for joining me on this journey. For today, though, I wanted to take a moment and wanted to talk to us about interference. By definition, interference is to come into opposition as one thing with another, especially with the effect of hampering action or procedure. Now, you might be thinking that seeing as football season just recently kicked off in many of our communities and across the state, you may think that it was pass interference that came to mind when that word came to my mind. When a defender illegally prevents or hampers the offensive player from trying to catch the ball. That is one example of interference, but it wasn't the one that caught my attention. You see, it was just last night I was reading an article. It was an article about a Welsh village of Aberhausen. In this remote village, it caught my attention because for the past 18 months, they've had a mystery on their hands. Every day during that past year and a half, every day at 7 a.m., their broadband internet connection dropped to snail's pace speeds, if it didn't drop out entirely. And there have been engineers and experts that have been attempting to fix that problem for 18 months. They've been frequently running tests so they could find where the fault was. They've tested equipment, they've done everything they could, but they could see no reason for those regular morning interruptions. And it came to a point where those engineers, they went out and they replaced large sections of the cable and equipment that served and fed the village its connection. Yet no matter what they did, that problem still remained. And as you can imagine, there's been any number of theories, any number of suggestions that have been presented as to why this happens, right up to it being aliens tapping into their internet to using up all their bandwidth on a daily basis at 7 a.m. Well, after months and months and months of testing and finding no solution, that team of engineers and technicians, they brought in what they called a spectrum analyzer. This device allowed them to walk through the village, and they were able to watch for what they described as electrical noise. And once they were doing so, it didn't take them long to see that right about 7 a.m. every morning, they saw what they described as a large burst of electrical interference in the village. And within a day or two, they were able to track down the source of that burst of that electrical noise. They tracked it to a single property in the village. And what they found was that at 7 a.m. every morning, the occupant of that house, of that home, they would walk in and switch on their very old TV. And that act of switching on that TV would then put out that electrical burst that would knock out the broadband of the entire village. Again, as you might imagine, upon learning that they were the cause of the village's problems, that resident was mortified. They explained that it was a secondhand TV that someone had given them, and they had no idea that it was causing the interference problems that had plagued the village for so many months. The article that I read also noted that the resident agreed to switch off the interference-causing device and not to use it again, to get rid of that TV. And the technicians and engineers are happy to report that since they located that cause, since they found the fault, those residents of Oberhausen, they've seen no further issues with their broadband connection. They're able to surf at all times of the day, including the morning, without interruption. Now, I shared this story because, well, first, at heart, I'm still an IT nerd, and I was fascinated at all the efforts that were made to fix the problem, only to find the culprit was a single out-of-date and questionably operating TV. But the second reason that I found this so fascinating, I found it so interesting, was it made me think. It made me stop and wonder, are my actions or my words or my beliefs, are they causing interference for others? Are there things that I do, maybe even things that I do without realizing it, that are causing interference for others? Things that are hampering other people's happiness or joy or peace, or maybe even hampering their faith? What kind of interference might I be generating, maybe without even realizing it? In his letter to the Philippians, Paul wrote, "Do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility regard others as better than yourselves. Let each of you look not to your own interests, but to the interests of others. Let the same mind be in you that was in Christ Jesus." That's from Philippians 2, verses 3 through 5. For me, for us here today, I would challenge all of us to consider if we might be a source of interference in the lives of others. Do our words or actions, or maybe it's our lack of words or lack of actions, do they allow others to have their lives unfairly interrupted simply because it benefits us? Are we willing, like that member of that village in Wales, to be held accountable when we have our interference pointed out to us? Because that villager could have easily said, "That's too bad for you that your internet goes out. I like my TV. I'm keeping it." They could have placed their needs above the needs of others, above the needs of the whole village for that matter. But they didn't. Upon realizing what was happening, they acted as Paul had instructed. Look not to your own interest, but to the interests of others. Let the same mind be in you that was in Christ Jesus. My friends, the needs, the rights, The values of other people, they do matter. Even if they don't fully line up with my own way of thinking, with your own way of thinking or being or living. Let the same mind be in you that was in Christ Jesus. A mind of love and grace and forgiveness, not one that interferes in others' pursuit of those things. Is there a TV that you need to switch off in your life? Maybe one that's in need of a slight tune-up? Until next time, my friends, I'll be here, adjusting my own bunny ears, trying to get a little clearer reception, trying to hear a little clearer that voice that still speaks into our lives. Until then, take care, stay safe, and God bless.